Hello, everyone. A very good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. And welcome to this Kickstart webinar, where we are going to be talking about the three components of the ACCA qualification and the resources that are available to support you in your journey to ACCA membership. So whether you've recently joined ACCA or you're coming back after a break, or if you're an ongoing student, this session will be valuable to you. So welcome once again and do stay with us to the end. Now, my name is Martin and I work as Education Support Manager here at ACCA. And I'm joined by my colleague, Kirsty McIsaac, who is a Solutions Management Lead, and she will be speaking a little later on. And before we kick off, I'd like to cover a few keeping items. There are a number of buttons on your screen that will be useful to you in this webinar. You'll see a help icon on the left-hand side that provides resources and information to help you resolve any technical issues that you might experience. There are some icons for the slides and the media player. You'll need to see both of these during the webinar, so please ensure that you have selected them. There's an attendee chat function that you can use to engage with fellow webinar attendees. And please note that that's a public forum, so please do not share any personal details, including email addresses and phone numbers. There's a resource list, the icon that looks like a file symbol. If you click on that, you'll be able to access the resources that are relevant to today's webinar, including direct links to any videos or web pages that we may refer to in this session. Now you can always rearrange your screen to suit you and resize the windows if you need to. And if at any point you can't hear what we are saying or you can't see the visuals, please do refresh your browser. That usually helps. Now, registering for this webinar means you'll be sent an email tomorrow with details of how you can listen to it again. So don't worry if you miss something or you have any technical issues, because you'll be able to access the recording. And towards the end of the session, we'll spend some few minutes taking your questions. So if you'd like your question to be answered, please do submit that bright and early. Use the Q&A button. We'll be monitoring that for questions, and we'll have a few minutes towards the end of the session to respond to your questions. So welcome once again, and we'll now kick off with the content for the day. So I mentioned this is a Kickstart webinar. We are talking about the three components of the ACCA qualification, that is exams, EPSM, and the experience bit of it. So if we just kick off with a bit of a refresher and an overview about ACCA, we are undoubtedly the most globally recognized accountancy and finance qualification. We were founded in 1904, and since then, we've long championed inclusion. And today, we are proud to say that we have more than 250,000 ACCA members around the world and more than 500,000 students across 180 countries. Now, our forward-looking qualifications, continuous learning, and insights are respected and valued by employers in every sector all over the world, and your ACCA designation will be recognized wherever you go. So just a quick recap there to remind you of, probably your motivation to pursue the ACCA qualification. Now, when we talk about ACCA members, so these are chartered accountants who have met the three requirements of ACCA membership. So the three elements are exams, ethics, and experience. So the ACCA qualification develops the forward-thinking, sustainable businesses and finance professionals that the world. Now, part of the reason for that is that the qualification is developed in collaboration with employers, and we continually update our syllabus to reflect the latest developments in the real world of business. When you talk about the ACCA qualification, it's easy to just think about completing the 13 exams, but really it's important for you to remember that those three components are necessary for you to gain your membership. And those three are the focus of our session today. So the exams, 13 of them split across 3 levels. You need to complete the ethics and professional skills module, and you need to attain 36 months of relevant experience. And that's what gets you to a qualified ACCA member. Now, moving on, just to show you how the progression happens across the 3 levels that I have mentioned. Before the 3 levels, you see there the foundations in accountancy. So ACCA also offers the foundations in accountancy program. That's ideal to those who are new to finance, or even if already working in finance but have no formal qualifications. Okay, so if you want to know how finance works in order for you to progress your career, FIA would be a good entry point for you. And perhaps if you want to pursue higher qualifications in finance, or simply just boost your employability and mobility by learning the universal language of business. In terms of the core ACCA qualification, there are 3 levels, like I've mentioned, total of 13 exams. The applied knowledge level, the exams help you develop essential understanding and techniques in accounting. And there are 3 exams at this stage. I'll share with you more details shortly. Now, once you're done with the applied knowledge level, you proceed to the applied skills. And these exams build on existing knowledge and understanding for you to develop a strong, broad, and practical finance skills, that are required for future accountants. All sectors in business, all industries do require these competent accountants. And there are 6 exams in that applied skills level. Now, the final level is the strategic professional, and the exams at this stage, prepare you for future leadership positions. The content covers case studies. Students can specialize in areas that suit their career ambitions. And in addition to the exams, in between the applied skills and strategic professional levels, that's when we advise you to complete the ethics and professional skills module. We talked about the exams, the 3 levels. So I now delve a bit deeper into each of these and share with you the nature of the exams. Now, we've got 2 categories of exams, if I were to call them that. We've got the on-demand exams being available throughout the year, and session exams being available in 4 exam sittings every year. And all our exams are computer-based. Yeah, so you no longer have an answer sheet with a pen to write your answers. You will do all your exams in the CBE format, the computer-based exam format. Now, the foundations in accountancy that I mentioned, you can see the exams listed there: recording financial transactions, management information, maintaining financial records, and managing costs and finance. Okay, so those are the exams at the FIA or the diploma level papers. Applied knowledge level, we said there are 3 exams: business and technology, management accounting, and financial accounting. Applied skills, there are 6 exams, but only one of them is on demand. That's why it appears alone on this slide. That's corporate and business law. So these are the exams that are available on demand, okay? And remember, we said on demand means they are available throughout. Whenever you're ready, you can book an exam and sit it at a time of your convenience. Now let's move on to the session computer-based exams. So these are exams that are, sat in the 4 exam sessions that are listed there on your right. We've got exam sessions in March, in June, in September, and in December of every year. So for the applied skills level, the session-based exams are performance management, taxation, financial reporting, audit and assurance, and financial management. Once you're done with that level, you proceed to the strategic professional level, where there are 2 essential and mandatory exams. That's the strategic business leader and strategic business reporting. And then you need to choose 2 options out of 4 between advanced financial management, advanced performance management, advanced taxation, and advanced audit and assurance. So 2 options out of those 4 will be required to make the total list or total number of exams to 13. And we've mentioned that the exams are available in March, June, September, and December. Now, we've received quite a number of questions around exemptions. Can I get exemptions? How many exemptions will I get depending on this qualification? So we've got an exemptions calculator tool that you can find the link on the resources tab. That will enable you to understand, how many exemptions you can get based on your previous qualifications. And that can, give you a head start into the qualification journey. So ACCA partners with colleges and universities across the world, and select institutions receive ACCA accreditation. So that's students from specific accounting programs can get exemptions from some ACCA exams. So once you check how many exemptions you may be eligible for, we encourage you to make use of our Get Ready modules. And the link is shared in the resources. And those are modules that help you, review or check your underpinning knowledge as you move on to the next exams, to make sure that you've got all the knowledge relating to the exam which you've been exempted in, so that you can proceed to the subsequent exams. Now, we don't just give you the exams without support. We've got lots of fantastic support resources to support you at each stage of your preparation journey. And I'm going to share with you a highlight of these study support resources so that you can know what's available for you even as you prepare for your exams. Let's split this preparation journey into 3 phases. You've got the planning phase, you've got the study phase, and you've got the practice phase. So in the planning phase, one of our key support resources is a Compass Planner. Now, the Compass Planner lets you organize your study tasks and reflect on your progress as you work towards exam day, okay? So you're able to update your overall plans over the next 12 months. You can build up a detailed plan, put in your daily tasks and the milestones you want to achieve. You can review that plan as you go and make adjustments where needed. And that helps you to, split your time, ensure you've covered everything, and put you in a good pace for your exam preparation. So it's very important to have a plan, but it's even more important to stick to the plan. So don't just have a plan that lies somewhere on your desk or in your laptop. Always seek to stick to that as much as possible. Make your plan flexible so you can, adapt to any changes or anything that happens that, affects your plan. Now, once you're done with the planning, you get into the preparation phase, okay? Now, for this phase, we've got, again, lots of great resources to help you. I've mentioned the Get Ready modules. If you're coming in with exemptions, check your underpinning knowledge, ensure you're well knowledgeable in any underpinning exams. Now, we've got the Study Hub, which is a free online access platform for ACCA students. You'll find all the notes for all the units, for all the exams in the Study Hub. You've got quizzes, you've got flashcards, you've got practice questions. The Study Hub is essentially your digital textbook. We've got My Exam Performance, which is a feedback tool for students studying applied skills exams. And that gives you feedback from an exam that you have already done to tell you how you did in specific areas, the syllabus coverage, time management, etc. So pick that feedback, use it in your subsequent exam preparation, or in case you're having to resit that exam, then you know which areas to focus on. Now, we know there are topics that you may find challenging in different exams. And to help you with this, we have developed a playlist for topic explainer videos. So these are short, punchy videos demystifying these challenging topics and making it simple for you to understand the concepts so that you can have a good grounding as you go to study them in more. Again, the link to those is available in the resources, and they are housed on our ACCA Study Support Resources YouTube channel. Finally, towards every exam session, we do have our In Focus webinars, okay? So this is an exam-specific webinar. If you're sitting FR, you will have an FR In Focus webinar, for example, 1 hour with an expert tutor talking about a range of useful topics. It could be exam technique. It could be reviewing the latest examiner reports. It could be sharing some tips for success ahead of your exam. So our In Focus webinars are very valuable, and students do get lots of great value from them, and we do encourage you to attend them in the lead up to the exams. Now, the last phase of your exam preparation is a practice. Practice is critical, yeah? So for the practice bit of your preparation, we've got mock exams every session, and these are accompanied by debrief videos. So debrief videos are videos of an expert tutor attempting that mock and explaining to you how the answers should have been arrived at. So the mock is available on the practice platform. We encourage you to do it as early as possible, so you have time to review it, self-mark it on the platform, watch the debrief videos, and go back and see where you needed to have done something differently. Now, the practice platform, again, houses lots of past exams, specimen exams, practice exams, yeah, because the exam will require you to demonstrate, application of the knowledge you have learned into real life scenarios. So these are some of the key resources that we have prepared for you. So as you embark on your journey, as you embark on your studies, please do make use of these resources. So let me take you back to where we started. You are all on your journey to ACCA membership. We said there are 3 things you need to get. Number 1 is to get all your 13 exams done and passed. Number 2 is the ethics and professional skills module. Number 3 is a practical experience requirement. So we've talked about exams. We'll now move on to the ethics and professional skills module. And I'll hand over at this point to Kirsty to take us through that bit. Kirsty, over to you.
Thank you very much, Martin. So yes, we're going to start by talking about the ethics and professional skills module. So long gone are the days where accountants can just rely on their technical knowledge to succeed. In a rapidly changing and complex business landscape where digital technology, artificial intelligence, and the drive for sustainability dominates, employers need accountants with both the full package of professional skills and the capability to make the right ethical choices. In ACCA, we develop accountants for a better world, and that's why the Ethics and Professional Skills module is an essential part of your learning as an ACCA future member. Now, the ability to lead and communicate effectively, to show integrity and commercial awareness, to adopt innovative thinking and professional skepticism, and understanding how to use data in an ethical manner are all just a handful of the skills developed within the Ethics and Professional Skills module. And it's understanding how to apply these skills that will enable you to hit the ground running with future employers and help them to drive their business forward. But let's take a little bit of a step back first and explore what the Ethics and Professional Skills module is. So EPSM, as it's commonly known, is a core component of the ACCA qualification. You need to complete it along with your exams and practical experience requirement. And I'll talk more about the practical experience requirement later. But you need to complete that and EPSM to become an ACCA member. The module itself is an integrated online e-learning and assessment module. So everything is self-contained. You don't need to get any additional tuition. You don't need any additional textbooks or guidance notes. Everything is contained within the platform. You purchase EPSM through your My ACCA account. And once you have purchased it, then it can be completed on demand. It's designed to be flexible so that you can complete it over multiple sittings. You don't need to do everything in one go. But it should be attempted before you attempt your first strategic professional exam. And we'll talk about that and why that's the case in a little bit more detail in a minute. There are 10 units in the Ethics and Professional Skills module. 7 of those units cover the learning. And the learning takes place through a mix of videos, learning resources, interactive quizzes, and each of those 7 units has an end of unit assessment. Once you've completed the learning, there's also a really dynamic integrated case study unit. That gives you a business scenario and some related tasks that are based on the learning from the previous unit. So it's really important that you take time over those learning units because you will be tested on them in that final end of unit assessment. There is also a final assessment unit. Now that is the only unit that does have to be completed in one attempt. And that final assessment unit has 14 questions that need to be answered correctly. There's a 50% pass mark, and you have to complete it within 2 hours. One additional unit to mention is a unit that is dedicated to how the EPSM content links to and prepares you for the type of tasks that you could face in strategic professional exams. But it doesn't just do that, it also looks at what professional skills are and how they're used in the workplace. Now, that's a great boost to your employability and overall attractiveness in the marketplace, as well as explaining how to maximise your technical and professional marks in each of the strategic professional exams. So as I said before, it's really important to make sure that you do EPSM before you start studying for your first strategic professional exam. So we can't emphasise those last 2 points enough. The skills that you'll learn by completing EPSM are skills that employers are looking for in the workplace. 91% of our employers have told us that they think it's important for ACCA trainees to progress to membership. And we regularly consult and survey employers to ensure that EPSM is equipping future members with the skills that employers are asking for. So completing EPSM before you attempt the strategic professional exams has been proven to increase pass rates by up to 25%. So you'll be able to score more marks at each strategic professional exam if you have completed EPSM. And that means that you will progress through the exams faster with fewer resits. So when you're planning your exams for this year or for the future, please do make sure that you factor in when you're going to take EPSM and look at that before your strategic professional exams. You might even want to dedicate an exam session to it if you're not going to be sitting exams at any particular session. Before we move on, we have included some useful resources for you in the resource list for today's session. And you'll be able to access that on your webinar console. That will take you to a hub site on the ACCA website where you'll be able to access all of these resources. So from that hub site, you'll be able to access the EPSM syllabus document, which describes the content of those 10 units that we spoke about in detail. There is a handy Kickstart guide that helps you to access the module itself and explain some of the functionality. There's also a really nice one-page infographic, which has some handy information on how EPSM supports your strategic professional study. There is a dedicated EPSM playlist on our Student Support YouTube channel. So please do subscribe to the YouTube channel to make sure that you are kept up to date with all the new videos that we release on that channel. But aside from that, what if you do need more help? So if you're having trouble accessing EPSM or working with the functionality, ACCA Connect will be able to help you with technical support or get you moving again. If you are struggling with the content, then our first piece of advice to you is to go back and just revisit any content that you might have skimmed over, because we know that that's a temptation with e-learning. Make sure that you have thoroughly engaged with all of the e-learning and with any resources that are embedded within the platform. If you're still struggling, you could reach out to your learning provider or even your peers for support, but we will talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. Now, one final resource to highlight is our community manager, Isabel, has recorded a podcast with ACCA member Steve, where they discuss his journey to membership, including the important role of ethical and professional skills in his studies and career. Now, that's a really interesting watch with some great insights, and you'll find it on our YouTube channel, which again has been linked from the webinar resources. So just some tips on getting the most out of the Ethics and Professional Skills module. On average, it takes approximately 20 hours to complete the full module. Now, that includes all of the integrated learning, the quizzes and assessments that are included in the module. So to get the most out of the module and set yourself up for success in your exams and the workplace, you should aim to fully engage with all of the content as you work through the module. Take your time to complete the activities, the assessments and the quizzes, because those are all going to help reinforce your learning. And then reflect on your learning at the end of each unit. Think about whether you have experienced situations where the skills that you've learned might have helped you to do things differently. Now, as I said, you don't need to complete the module all at once. In fact, we would highly recommend that you don't try and do it all in one go. We have seen that the module is broken down into units, so you can work through it one unit at a time. Each unit should take you between 2 and 3 hours, so it's easy to work through a module in an evening or over the course of a weekend. And even if you do need to stop partway through a unit, your progress will be saved automatically and you can pick up again right where you left off. The only part of the module that has a fixed time limit is the final assessment. So make sure you set aside enough time to be able to focus on completing that within the 2-hour time limit. If you do run out of time or you don't achieve 50% at the first attempt, remember that you do have unlimited attempts with no additional fees. And no one but you is going to know how many attempts that you've made to complete the module, so don't worry about having to take it multiple times. And when you have passed the final assessment, you'll be able to access the Next Steps folder, where you can download your completion certificate and transcript. So that was EPSM, and now we're going to spend some time talking about the Practical Experience Requirement, or PER. Now, some of you might be quite new to ACCA, and perhaps you're not entirely sure what PER is. So we'll start with a short video that's just going to cover some of the basics.
To become an ACCA member, you need to complete 3 things: your exams, your ethics and professional skills module, and your practical experience requirement. To become an ACCA member, you need to complete 3 things: your exams, your ethics and professional skills module, and your practical experience requirement. That's the proof that you've got all the skills a finance professional needs in the workplace. You need to complete 36 months of experience and meet 9 performance objectives. That's 5 essentials and 4 technical with the approval of a supervisor. If you're an affiliate, practical experience is the final stop in your journey to membership. If you're a student, you don't need to wait. You can work towards your PER alongside your studies. So, let's get started. Your practical experience requirement needs to be achieved in a supervised, relevant role where you spend time on accounting and finance tasks. Part-time work, internships, and volunteering all count, and you don't have to complete all your experience with the same employer. If you're not in a relevant role, you can find one on ACCA Careers, where you'll see more than 20,000 global vacancies. And once you're in a relevant role, you need to find a supervisor. They'll sign off your performance objectives as well as the time you've gained in your relevant role. Don't forget, you can have more than one supervisor. To sign off objectives, your supervisor needs to be a qualified accountant. But any workplace supervisor can sign off your time. If there isn't a qualified supervisor where you work, you might be eligible for a remote supervisor. You can find out more on the ACCA website. Once you've found a supervisor, you can start recording using the online practical experience requirement recording tool in your My ACCA account. You'll need to add details for your role, your employer, and your supervisor. We'll send them an invitation so they can register too. You have 5 essential objectives to complete. And you need to choose which 4 technical objectives you're aiming for. Then, your supervisor can help you identify ways to work towards your objectives in your job. Remember to record your objectives as you complete them, meeting 5 key elements along the way, and writing a 200 to 500 word statement explaining what you did and what you learned. Once it's done, submit to your supervisor for approval. You'll be able to track your progress against your objectives using your My ACCA account. If your employer has an annual review process, it's a good idea to use this to review your progress. And if you leave a role, get your supervisor to sign off your time and objectives before you go. Don't forget to register a new supervisor if your current one moves on. If you need any support along the way, we're here for you. Look out for full details, information and guidance on the ACCA website and find out what it means for your practical experience requirement journey if you work for an ACCA-approved employer. So, what are you waiting for? Get going with your practical experience requirement today. Every time you record it, you get even closer to ACCA membership, unlocking a world of opportunity, a global network, and the prestige of those 4 letters after your name.
Okay, so that was quite a lot of information in a short space of time. And we won't have time in today's session to go into all the details of PER. But the good news is that we do have lots of resources that will tell you everything that you need to know. And I'll tell you about those in just a moment. But before we do that, let's think for a minute about why PER is such an integral part of the ACCA qualification. Employers around the world expect ACCA members to demonstrate high levels of knowledge and ability in the workplace. By completing exams, you're getting knowledge, but gaining practical experience will allow you to apply that knowledge and the skills that you're gaining through exams, through your study, to real-life work situations. By observing and being involved in those situations, you'll develop the professional skills, the attitudes, and the behaviours that employers expect from an ACCA member. And you'll develop judgment by reflecting on the quality of your work and how you might improve on your performance in the future. So completing practical experience, the practical experience requirement will allow you to validate the quality of your workplace performance, and that will leave you in a great position to take your next step as a future-ready, globally relevant finance professional. So in the video that we just watched, we heard that as a student, you don't need to wait to start working on your practical experience requirement. And that's one of the great things about the ACCA qualification. It's flexible, and you can work through the elements in whatever way suits you best. So let's take a look at a few of the different routes that you might be taking to gaining your practical experience and what support is available for you along the way. So maybe you are still new to ACCA, or perhaps you're in a situation where full-time study is best for you. That doesn't mean that practical experience is something you don't need to think about. You will need to complete your PER to complete your journey to membership, so you need to factor this into your plans just as much as planning for your next exam. Even if you're just starting out with ACCA, getting to know the practical experience requirements is something that should be at the top of your priority list. There's absolutely no excuse for reaching the end of your exams before realising that you still have 3 years of practical experience to complete before you can progress to membership. Secondly, it's never too early to start thinking about your career path. Having a goal in mind is a great way to motivate yourself when times get tough. As you work through your exams, reflect on your strengths and your weaknesses. What kind of roles might play to your strengths, or what areas spark your interest? And once you know what your preferred career path looks like, why not start building some soft skills that will enhance the knowledge that you're gaining through your exams? Ethics and professionalism is a great place to start, but be on the lookout for opportunities to build your interpersonal skills or expand on your technology skills, for instance. So what resources do we have to support you? Check out our Student Study Resources YouTube channel for bite-sized videos summarising the requirements and more in-depth on-demand webinars that will explain the requirements in much more detail. Keep an eye out for our Destination ACCA webinar series. These focus on experience, ethics and employability. Our latest webinar was all about practical experience, and that is available for you to watch on demand, and the link is in the resources. Our PER Quick Guide is also a great place to start if you are short of time or if you prefer written guidance. And the ACCA Careers site is not just for members. It's packed with great articles and advice to help get you started with career planning. Or why not check out the Role Insights section, where you can find out about different roles in finance, what you need to do to get there, and where it might take you. If you're ready to get started with your practical experience, but you still need to get into that first relevant role, then there are some things that you can do to help you get started on the ladder. So since you already know from your career planning what kind of roles you're looking for, defining your ideal job search parameters and setting up job alerts in ACCA Careers means that you'll be notified whenever a new role is listed on our award-winning job board. Next, you need to make a great application and ace the interview. So remember that you should tailor your CV and cover letter for each application to make sure that you make it to the top of the pile. And be prepared to make a great impression when you secure an interview. Finally, when you're successful in gaining your first role, make it a priority to identify and connect with a qualified individual who can act as your practical experience supervisor. Without their support, you won't be able to get your experience signed off, and that will prevent you from progressing to membership. Now, if you're still looking for your first relevant role, we have a bite-sized video in our YouTube channel that explains what kind of work can count towards your practical experience requirements. Our on-demand Destination ACCA webinar on unlocking your career potential has lots of useful advice on applying for your first role, as well as detailed demonstrations of our ACCA Careers job board and our virtual careers fairs. If you have scored that first interview, first of all, well done. But you also cannot afford to miss the interview preparation video series that's available on our new virtual skills platform. It's designed to help you approach the interview process with confidence, clarity, and professionalism. And then once you have secured your first relevant role, find out more about practical experience supervisors by watching our on-demand masterclass. It clearly explains who can act as your supervisor and how you can make the most of your relationship with them. Now, working on your practical experience alongside your exams is a great way to both consolidate your learning and fast track your journey to membership, especially if you're able to align your exams to the tasks that you're completing in the workplace. So once you are gaining practical experience, it's important that you're recording both your time and any performance objectives that you've completed. So make sure that you have recorded a start date for your role and enter details for your practical experience supervisor. If you move on to a new role, make sure that you get any time and objectives signed off before you go. It can be really difficult to get that done retrospectively once you or your supervisor have moved on. Now, everyone needs to complete the 5 essentials performance objectives, but you'll need to decide which 4 technical objectives will be the most suitable for you to demonstrate. Your practical experience supervisor can help you to decide what tasks you can do that will help you demonstrate the objectives, and they can also help you to set deadlines for completing them. You will need to write a 200 to 500 word statement for each of the objectives that you complete. Now, that needs to reflect your own experience and learning. It's really not a good idea to try and write all of your statements in one go, because it can be quite overwhelming if you try and do that. So what's much better is to complete your statement for each objective as you complete it. Now, our PER Essential Guide is your go-to tool for explaining what you need to do. And we also have a handy bite-sized video on using the online PER recording tool in our YouTube channel. The Performance Objectives booklet will help you to identify what tasks and activities count towards specific performance objectives. And finally, we have advice on how to write your performance objective statements in both a guidance document and our on-demand Performance Objectives Masterclass webinar. So, what are you waiting for? Planning for and working towards your practical experience requirement alongside your studies can accelerate your journey to membership and bring you closer to joining our diverse and dynamic worldwide community of ACCA members. So with that, Martin, I'm going to hand back to you.
Thank you, Kirsty, for that great presentation around the APSM and PER. And that sets us nicely for quite some time to respond to a few questions that have come in. So I'm going to pick a number of questions, respond to them, and then I'll give you a chance as well to respond to more questions. So we've got a question here as to whether someone can do or can write 2 subjects or 2 exams in one exam sitting. The answer is yes. You can do 1 or 2 or more exams. The only limit we have is that you cannot do more than 8 exams within 1 year. So if you have the time to prepare for more than 1 exam and the ability to ensure that you pass both, please feel free to go ahead. There's a question around exemptions. If you have gotten exemptions from certain modules, but you would like to take the course to relearn the knowledge, is that possible? Absolutely, yes. You can give up exemptions for whatever reason. So yes, that's possible. Exemptions are not mandatory. You can give up some or all of the exemptions if you'd like to sit that exam. It's also important to be aware that you can't be exempted for an exam that you have already attempted. So if, let's say, you were eligible for an exemption in FR and you give up that exemption and you attempted FR and you failed, you can now not claim an exemption in FR. You would need to sit and pass that particular exam. There is another question on the strategic professional level, whether you have to do the advanced, the options first and then mandatory ones, or can you do SPR as first exam in the SP level? So you are free to choose the order in which you'd like to do your strategic professional exams. So whether you want to start with the options or you want to start with the essentials, you're free to make that decision. However, for students who would like to take advanced audit and assurance, you may want to consider, attempting SBR first, because then the concepts you learn in SBR will be applicable in advanced audit and assurance. So some of the considerations there to make in terms of how the exams relate with each other. What if someone is able to complete only 2 levels and not the third? So you're only able to complete applied knowledge and applied skills. Now, you will unfortunately not be able to reap the full benefit of the ACCA qualification, because ACCA members are in very high demand, and for you to be at that level and enjoy the perks, of full membership, then you need to go all the way. So if you only complete 2 levels, you remain as an ACCA student, which means then you miss out on the benefits of full membership. So we highly encourage that you complete, the journey. Otherwise, if you're stuck in the middle, then you lose out on the benefits of membership. There's a question about the mocks. How many times can I do a mock exam? The answer is simple: as many times as you possibly can. So the mock is available until the exam date. So you can attempt the mock. It still remains available once you have attempted it. You can go back to it if you want to do it again. Hopefully you'll be only addressing the areas where you find, a bit of a challenge. A related question: does the practice platform exactly look like the exam platform? I think that's what you're asking. So the practice platform mirrors the exam environment. So the layout, where everything is, the functionalities is going to be the same. That's the same layout you will find in your exam environment. And why we encourage you to practice on the platform is so that you're familiar with that layout. You don't want to be struggling on exam day to find your exhibit. So where is this information? What are the functionalities in the word processor, in the spreadsheet? You want to be very familiar with your tools. You want to navigate it very easily so that you focus on answering the questions and scoring the marks. Speaking of marks, there's a question about the pass mark. What is the pass mark for the exam? The pass mark for all ACCA exams is 50% and above. So for you to score a pass, you need to score 50% and above, and that's constant for all the exams. There's another question: are the optional strategic professional modules selected on the date of the exam or prior the exam date? So you will need to make that decision ahead of the exam, because that is what will advise which exams you will book and which exam you will prepare for. So if you decide that you're going to do, advanced performance management as one of the options, then you book for advanced performance management, prepare for it, and sit it. So that's a decision to be made well in advance of the exam date. Okay, I hope that's clear. Kirsty, do you want to take a few questions for the next round? We've got a few questions around PER and the EPSM. Sorry, you went off camera. Not sure that you can still hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, great. So I'll give Kirsty a few minutes and I'll pick a few more questions just before she's able to get back. There's a question around the recording of the session. Yes, you will be able to access the recording of this session. You'll receive an email tomorrow with the link on how to access that. How to get the study materials. I mentioned Study Hub. So you can access Study Hub through your My ACCA portal. So just log into the portal. On the left-hand side, you'll find a section written My Qualification. And within My Qualification, you'll find a link to the ACCA Study Hub that I mentioned has got all the notes practice questions, quizzes, and it's accessible at no cost to all ACCA students. Kirsty, I see you're back. Do you want to take some questions?
I am, yes, thank you. Okay, so
Great.
I will kick off with some of the questions that we received about the Ethics and Professional Skills module. So first one is an easy one to answer. Is EPSM a compulsory module for ACCA? Absolutely. If you want to become an ACCA member, then you do have to complete your exams, your Ethics and Professional Skills module, and your practical experience requirement. You cannot become an ACCA member without all three of those elements. So EPSM is absolutely compulsory to progress to membership. How many attempts do I have to pass the Ethics and Professional Skills module? I think we did cover that in the presentation, but really, when you get to that final assessment module, you can attempt that as many times as it takes you to achieve the minimum of 50% pass mark for that. Like I said in the presentation, nobody except for you is going to know how many times you retook that final assessment. So do not worry about it reflecting poorly on you if you need to attempt it a few times. It's all the same, and all you need to do is get that 50%. Is it a must to do EPSM before strategic professional exams? Now, you will be able to enter for your strategic professional exams if you haven't completed EPSM. So it's not going to stop you from entering for and sitting strategic professional exams. But in terms of the benefit to you and your chances of success at strategic professional exams, we would say it is absolutely highly advisable for you to do EPSM before you attempt your first strategic professional exam. As we said, it's going to give you lots of knowledge, lots of insight into some of the practical skills, the professional skills that you will be tested on in strategic professional. And there is a dedicated unit within the Ethics and Professional Skills module that goes into detail about how those skills are used in the exams. So it would be very advisable for you to do that, and it's definitely going to give you better chances of success. And I think we saw that kind of pass rates for people who have completed EPSM before strategic professional are up to 25% higher. So I can't see why you wouldn't want that. Can I do EPSM after passing applied knowledge, or is this too soon? We would say that that is too soon. So some of the units in the EPSM module do use skills and knowledge that you will learn in applied skills in the applied skills exams. So I think if there are some of the units that you could do after applied knowledge, and I think it's units 1, 2, and 3 are the same as the ones in the Foundations in Professionalism, or certainly very similar. So you could start some of the units, but as you progress through the Ethics and Professional Skills module, if you haven't completed applied skills, or if you're not kind of already part of the way through applied skills, I think you might struggle with some of the content. And as we said, we do find it really beneficial if that is fresh in your mind as you're starting your strategic professional exams. So towards the end of applied skills, certainly between applied skills and strategic professional, is the sweet spot for completing EPSM. Okay, so I think that's the majority of the kind of most common questions we had about EPSM. I will try and answer some of your questions about PER. Now, what I will say is I'm not going to go into a lot of details about any very specific scenarios that you have. The one thing about PER is that there are a lot of very specific scenarios that students and affiliates have when they're completing their PER. Now, our professional development team are very, very qualified to answer these questions. A lot of the questions are answered in some of the webinars that we have done with our professional development team. So I would highly recommend you have a look at the most recent Destination ACCA webinar we did on practical experience, because in that webinar, our colleagues from professional development do go into a lot of the most frequently asked questions that students and affiliates have around about practical experience, and that will have a lot more of the answers that you're looking for. I will try and answer some of the questions that you've got here. So who is considered a qualified accountant in regards to practical experience. So a qualified accountant is a member of an IFAC member body. So IFAC is the International Federation of Accountants. So when we talk about a qualified accountant, we're talking about an accountant who has a qualification from one of those IFAC member bodies. Or if there's not an IFAC member body in your country, it would be an accountant who is recognised by law in your country. Now, there is a difference between who can sign off your time and who can sign off your performance objectives. So for time, your supervisor doesn't need to be qualified. So that could be your manager, and it could be somebody in your HR department. For performance objectives, they have to be a qualified accountant. And not only do they have to be a qualified accountant, being a member of the IFAC body, they also have to work closely with you and know your work. So it can't just be a qualified accountant that you know who doesn't work with you. There are situations where maybe there's not an IFAC qualified accountant within your company, and there are some suggestions in some of the resources that we have. So potentially it could be an external auditor, or it could be a consultant who works with your company, but they have to work with you and they have to know your work. So it's not just a case of finding any qualified accountant that you know of. They have to be very much linked to your work. Is there a minimum time period of work to be completed for each PER objective? There's no stated time period for each of the objectives. What you might find is that your supervisor has an idea of how much time they would expect you to be working on a task for them to be comfortable that you have met the requirements of the objective and for them to be comfortable with signing off your objective. We do have a few questions from people who have previous experience and want to know whether they can use that towards their practical experience requirements. Yes, so you can use any experience that has been gained either before, during, or after you have completed your exams. So if you have been working in a relevant role before starting ACCA, you can use that time as part of your practical experience requirement. The key thing there is that you would still need to get that time signed off by a supervisor who was working with you at that time. So that's always the tricky bit, is if you have to go backwards and start to get involved, start to get in touch with supervisors who maybe worked with you in the past to get those objectives signed off, or to get that time signed off. And that's really why we would highly recommend anyone who is working in a relevant role, no matter how early in your studies with ACCA you are, make sure you know who your supervisor is, make sure you are recording your experience and signing it off when that's relevant. Martin, I think that's probably the majority of the ones that I can answer for today, but we do have lots of resources there. Please do have a look at those and keep an eye out for the next Destination ACCA webinars, because that's your opportunity to make sure that we can get your questions answered by the people who are actually working on practical experience.
Great, thank you, Kirsty. We've got 2 minutes to the top of the hour, so I'll pick 1 or 2 more questions in that time. Now, we've received a couple of questions around the recent, and are having a redesigned ACCA qualification. So we are making changes to the ACCA qualification. So there are a couple of questions have come in as to whether that should affect your plans or your decisions moving forward. So the answer to that is you should not make any changes to your plans, because you will not be negatively affected by the redesigned qualification, which will only, those changes only take effect beginning next year, 2027. So if you'd like more details around that, we've got a section of the website on the ACCA redesigned qualification. We've shared that link on the attendee chat. We've done a webinar, detailing all the changes and what that means for you. And most importantly, we've got a transition tool still on that section of the website, which can help you understand, how that will impact, your subsequent exams. So for you to understand, if you will have done maybe 3 or 4 exams and up to a certain level, how do you transition into the new qualification. We've got that robust transition tool to provide you with that information. There's a question around whether there is a previous question paper of the exam on the website. Past papers are available on the practice platform, which you access through your My ACCA portal, okay? So you'll get lots of past exams, practice exams, specimen exams for you to engage with. Finally, is it possible to change optional papers? Say you sat for AAA and failed, now you want to change to APM? Yes, absolutely. If you'd like to switch the options at that level, that's something you can do. So thanks, everyone. That's all the time that we had for this session today. Thank you so much for your engagement. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for the feedback. We do hope that you found lots of value from this session. Just to remind you that you will receive an email with a link to access the recording, and the links remain active for the resources that we have talked about in this session. So once again, we wish you all the best in your journey to qualification, all the best in your exams, all the best in everything that you do towards achieving ACCA membership. Thank you to everyone who made this a success, and thanks to everyone for joining. Thank you and goodbye for now.